Hello, friends, and welcome to another podcast episode of SALEMA'S Nourishing Edits 2.0. This week, we're going to be asking the self inquiry question: what are you currently subscribing to? False memories and changing stories, how to edit your mind. So, this week, two powerful and relatively simple verse chants await you, taken from the chapter on pure awareness from chapter 1 of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. This is a yogic text, a scripture, philosophy. For those of you that don't know it, you'll be hearing it, but also if you read the post, you'll be seeing it, and that will help you understand a little bit more if you're new here. So, basically what we're looking at is how to practice the identifications and stilling the fluctuations of the mind with these two verses, along with some prompts to help you inquire and explore how false memories may be affecting how you see and how you understand your current reality. This week, I'll also be drawing from my days where I was studying memory during my time at the University of Cambridge and offering a brief introduction to memory, pathology, and terminology, presenting some insight to help you gain, hopefully, a new shift in perspective on how you perceive memories and ultimately your reality. With a full and interesting week of entertaining and preparing for new ventures and adventures, surprisingly, I found it more of a challenge to be creative. However, I should have known that, thankfully, that essence wouldn't linger for too long. Able to catch the realization arising of how I was subscribing to a somewhat false story, and a reminder of how quickly we can revert to our old patterns and stories in our minds. In amongst these new ventures and adventures that I have been entertaining and manifesting, I feel very blessed to be joining my mentor Elena Brower towards the end of the year for some much needed reflection and learning more about how to sit and soften with life. I've always had a duality of thought in terms of my belief that things happen for a reason and believing that we have willpower to make conscious choices that can change the directionality of our path in life. One such thing or one such experience happened to me this week when I was on my patient rounds with my lovely eye patients, my other part time job for now. I have been thinking the last couple of weeks about re-tipping my toes in the water to teach yoga in a physical on a physical plane, in real time at a physical place, as opposed to being online. Looking at my route on Wednesday, I realised that one of my patients lived near one of my old yoga studios in Cambridge. I quietly whispered to myself and then reaffirmed out loud, if there's a parking space right outside, then I will stop, and if not, I won't. Yes, you guessed it. When I pulled into the road, alas, there was a free space right outside the entrance. So I went in to have a brief conversation of the possibility about teaching and was greeted by a new centre manager, where we hit it off straight away. Nonetheless, that being said, in amongst the joy I observed my mind beginning to negatively wander and spiral, old memories from a particularly difficult time in my teaching profession resurfacing once again, inferring and subscribing to old stories of unworthiness and imposter syndrome that one experiences from time to time, often more prevalent if you've had a long break away. In these moments, it becomes critical to befriend your mind, to work with your mind, but not be ruled by it. Our memory has many facets of memory within our memory. Therefore, understanding and bringing awareness to how your mind works from both a Western and Eastern scientific perspective can help you evolve and remove yourself from suffering. My journey in cognitive experimental psychology, in brackets, when I had hair. If you're looking at the post, you'll see what I mean over on Substack. If you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, please feel free to head over to Substack where you can see the written form of this podcast. Memory, a vast field for scientific exploration. During my time at Cambridge, I found the scientific study of memory and vision absolutely fascinating. Although now it's even hard for me to recall the amount of material I actually studied. It was vast. Another interesting side story to note here is why I went back to university as a mature student. I won't tell you how old I was, but I was old. Basically, it was to help my understanding of memory loss in dementia and Alzheimer's patients, as my mother was greatly suffering from Alzheimer's at the time, and I wanted to know how best to deal with that, what I could expect, and how to act in and around her. What follows, if you're looking at the written post, are some photos. One of them is taken from my old scribbles on one of my many sessions with one of my many amazing lecturers, Dr. Andrea Grieve, who broke memory down in such an easy and informative way. So please feel free to nerd out below and have a look. It's very interesting. So, what is our memory? Well, memory is split into two: our conscious and our non-conscious. Conscious memory, so you may or may not know this. This is a refresh for those of you that do, and maybe you'll take something away from this if you haven't studied memory. Conscious memory is also known as our explicit or declarative memory. It contains both our long and short-term memories. Our long term contains episodic events and somatic facts. Non conscious, the other side, is also known as implicit or procedural. This contains our skills, our habits, and our conditioning, priming. It is also worth remembering that memory has three main functions, which are encoding, storage, and retrieval. False memories and the impact on self. So, what are false memories? Well, basically, false memories are recollections of past events that the brain has created, distorted, or reconstructed over time, normally in a bid to protect what we classify in psychology as the constructed self. This is often found in PTSD patients, but is more prevalently known, for example, with witnesses in criminal trials when they are asked to recall what they saw or heard. And from when they give their statement to when they're on the stand, it can really differ. How we create false memories, reminders. So, these are some important reminders about how we create false memories. First of all, there is some memory that really isn't memory. Two, there is something such as a false recall. Activation through word association. As we continue, another one is failure to recognize why that item is in your mind. Maybe some items are lending themselves to be incorrectly recalled and labeled. The most interesting one, and something that I have experienced in my life, was the illusion of remembering events that have never happened. Yes, it is really impossible. It is really possible, sorry, that can happen. The brain fills in, especially if it's related to trauma. The brain fills in the blanks, and it fills in the blanks, but not necessarily with what actually happened, and that is really prevalent in PTSD patients. Recognition is lower than recall, and watch out for assumptions and claims. The impact on self / many selves / not self depending on what line of philosophy or psychology you follow, are repeating cycles of behavior that can undermine our quality of living and having said experiences, often fueling fear and keeping us from experiencing some form of freedom. So you might ask, well, Salema, how do we unsubscribe to false memories and stories? Well, medically, from a Western perspective, there are going to be certain conditions where that isn't possible, and we're not going into those here. But from an Eastern scientific perspective, meditation and mindfulness would really help you detangle your mind and see things from a different perspective, quietening the mind down and trying to sit with a degree of emptiness might help you reflect upon some of the old stories and memories. And we're looking at the troublesome ones, obviously, not the positive ones. Embodied philosophy, such as the yogic scriptures, can definitely help. Yes, you can go to Western philosophers as well, but also chants help. And there are two chants, two sutras, two verses. In the first chapter, Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, we've already done one in a previous post, which is a yogash chitta vritti nirodha. When you stop identifying with your thoughts, fluctuations of the mind, then there is yoga. The yoga then becomes the identity with self, which is samadhi, happiness, and bliss. The other one is from the same chapter, chapter 1, but this is verse 12. And this is Abhyasa Viragyagyam Tannirodha. Identification with the fluctuations of the mind is stopped by practice and non-attachment. I'll say those two again. Yogash Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Abhyasa Viragyagyam Tannirodha. I'll leave you this week with some embodied prompts for consideration on false memories. And there are 4 that I would like to leave with you so you can sit with these. What are you currently subscribing to that may be preventing your progress and joy? 2, second one, reflect upon any memories that are troubling or limiting to you and that may not be quite as true as you think. 3, do you often get confused when recalling certain memories? So that could be when you're on your own or when you're in a gathering and someone asks you if you remember a certain event or a certain person. And 4th, what memories have you blocked or struggle to remember? This is quite an important one, this last one. What memories have you blocked or struggle to remember? Obviously, the best thing to do before you sit with these prompts is to maybe do a walking meditation like we did last week or a mindfulness practice. Something where you can empty out and become an empty vessel, an open empty vessel, to see what arises for you and then make some notes. So, please feel free to comment. I'll be interested in hearing your comments or questions if you have any. In the meantime, thanks for reading SALEMA'S Nourishing Edits 2.0. Please subscribe for free to receive new posts, podcasts, video notes, and support my work. This podcast will be going to a paid subscription from next month, date to yet be determined. And also from next month, we will be having gatherings, monthly gatherings. So a circle, blossoming circle, which will be a half an hour discussion, inspiration, poem, journaling based upon a theme. And we will also have the Blossoming Room, which will be a 30-minute physical practice that you can join in online. But until next time, thank you.